Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mike Colleen at MikeColleen.com. Alright, so let's talk about power today. I want more power. Alright, so a lot of you guys that are on my channel, all of you that are intuitive, that are heartfelt beings, that are emotional, that are those of you that know you're light warriors, empaths, etc., all of you have spiritual gifts. Here's the deal. You are probably afraid to use them because our entire societies around the world have told us and taught us, oh, that's wrong, that's bad. So who are those people within those groups, churches, societies, circles, etc., friends, whatever? Those are demonic narcissists. Their job is to make sure that you never tap into your true power. Unfortunately, you have to. There is a spiritual war that we are going through right now, and it is growing and growing and growing. It's only going to get more intense. God needs you to tap into your powers. You need to tap into those powers to fight the good fight. Okay, so let me give you a couple things that I've called in the past. Call it being a prophet. One time was I kept seeing 777 everywhere I went. I was at a coffee shop in San Francisco writing my book, Cracked Female Code. And I kept seeing 777 or 77 or 7, and I was like, okay, this is really, and it just kept happening. I was like, all right, so I just took it as God wants me to get up and leave, so I did. And as I'm driving down the road, I saw an address, 777. I thought, oh, okay, that's really interesting. I've been down this road literally 200 times. I've never noticed that address. And I get on the freeway, and there's a car license plate that says 777. I thought, okay, that's interesting. And then I saw a big truck go by me, and on the side, yep, it said 777. Now, this was about the 10th or 12th one. I was like, okay, I get it. You're trying to tell me something. And I get kind of freaked out a little bit, and I pulled over, and I pulled up to a gas station, and guess what the address was? Yep, 777. So this continued until I got home, and I posted on my Facebook page. I kept getting images of this tube, and people are like, what is 777? Is it some kind of guessing game? I was like, well, I think a lot of people are going to go missing, and I think it's a plane, like a plane's going to disappear, because I keep seeing this tube where all these people are in there. It's this really big tube, and people are sitting down, so I think that's a plane. Well, the very next morning, that flight ended up going missing in Indonesia. I think that was about 6-7 years ago. And then the big one that hit us, what was it, 3.5 years ago? The C virus. Don't want to say it. Don't know if we're allowed to say that on YouTube. Before they would block people. So I posted that. I had this real strong feeling, and it was about a month before it, and I posted it on Facebook, and I made a YouTube video where I mentioned it on there too. And sure enough, I said something's coming. It's coming fast, and it's going to affect the whole world, and it's literally going to go around the world and sweep around the entire world, and it's going to affect everybody. So a lot of people were like, how did you know that? A lady from Australia, a client, she was just like, geez, you called that one. And so the one with the airplane freaked out a lot of people because it happened the very next morning. And they were like, how did you know? I was like, I don't know, just get these intuitions once in a while. So there's something that I started to do. I started writing down my prayers. I bought a hardbound journal. It was a small journal. And I would write down my prayers, things that I would really pray for. Okay, so I'd write it down, and I would just write them down and write the date next to it. And sometimes I don't know if I wrote the time, but the date for sure. And I would just forget about it because someone had said to me, and now I heard this a long time ago, and I do recommend that you do this at least once in your lifetime. I heard a lot of times people are like, Michael, you really should write down your prayers. And I'm like, why? If they come true, great. Why do I need to write it down? Well, here's why. One of my challenges was I really needed proof to believe this stuff. I had to know if this is real or not. So I came back to that prayer journal, and I don't know if it was 6 months later or whatever, but I was like, holy shit. I just started marking off like all the prayers that came through. I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that. And that's what I realized, like, wow, we pray for stuff. And then here's what happens. When it happens, you think, oh, yeah, that was just, coincidence, or yeah, well, I just talked to so-and-so and they did it for me. No, that was your prayer. See, if you don't write them down and then go back 3 months later or 6 months later, you won't recognize that as a prayer that was answered. So you have to go back and look at them, and you have to acknowledge, like, wow, that was a prayer and it did actually happen. So a lot of times our prayers do come true. We just write it off as, oh, well, coincidence, circumstances, or bumped into the right person. Well, yeah, you bumped into the right person. Yeah, someone opened the door because you prayed for it. So it's really important to write it down, because when you can see it in the 3D, you start going, wait a minute, I actually prayed for all this stuff. So at this point, I was really starting to get into the groove, going, okay, this is actually happening. Okay. So my confidence really started to soar. So one of the things, the reason why I started learning energy healing is because I wanted this, it's like I wanted to see if this was real. I wanted to know. And it wasn't just about energy healing. It was really about Jesus and the stuff that he did and what he taught the disciples and how the disciples went about and healed people. Now, the reason why I say this is because most Christians, they may have read that, but their brain, because it didn't for me. I read it, but I didn't realize. I thought Jesus was the only person that ever healed anybody. But Jesus actually taught the disciples and said, and after a period of time, I don't know if it was a year or however long, but after he had trained them and taught them to heal people, he said, now go in pairs unto the world and do so unto others, meaning heal and teach. Teach them how to heal. Wait, what? See, most Christians don't acknowledge that. They don't recognize it, and it's definitely not taught that other people could heal. Most Christians will say, oh, only Jesus can heal. No, that is absolutely not true. Jesus wants you to be empowered. He wants you to tap into your power, because you will use it for good. Now, there was a time, this was after my car accident, and I had been struggling on every level. My body hurt, my brain injury, it was hard to focus and think, and money was tight. It was really, really tough going. And this was probably the 4th or 5th year, and I still had a long ways to go to heal. And I just broke down and I just cried. I sobbed and I begged God, please, just, all I wanted was a sign. I said, God, just give me something. And I felt kind of guilty, because God had answered my prayers of give me a sign. Like, I need to know if you're real. Like, show me this, let me know. And God had answered, and gave me real physical proof in the 3-dimensional world that we live in right now. So when I prayed, now here's how prayer works. This is one of the ways that it works. So when I prayed, I was sobbing and crying and just pouring out my heart, and I was on my knees on the ground. And I got the image of a 10 of hearts, a playing card, like for gambling, cards. And it just kind of threw me off. Like, oh God, I'd give up, whatever. And I just got up, and I don't know if I went and got on YouTube. I don't know, but I remember going out in the living room and just whatever, and I was kind of upset, and I didn't know what to think. And then all of a sudden, I just got this urge to go for a walk. Now, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, by the way. So I went for a walk. It was cold outside. I was miserable. I was really, really depressed. I was walking over towards the church, and I wanted to go there to pray again. And I was walking by the spot where I got ran over by a car about, 6 years before, 5 years, but just years before that. And for some reason, I was on the right side of the road. Normally, I'm on the left side. I don't even know why I was on the right side. I just was over there. And as I crossed the crosswalk, I looked down, and there was a playing card. I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I thought, you know, I'm gonna, because I actually started walking past it. I thought, you know what, maybe. So I turned around, grabbed it, and I flipped it over, and guess what? Yep, that's right, 10 of hearts. So what I noticed is a lot of times when you pray, something really weird will kind of just like pop you out of it, and you don't even think that, you just like, you give it like, okay, whatever, man. And so what happened was, for some reason, the 10 of hearts popped into my, like, an image while I was praying, and it just kind of like broke my focus on praying. I was like, oh, I'm too tired to deal with this, whatever. And then I don't know if it was 20 minutes later or half an hour, but whatever, like something, I just like, man, I'm just gonna go for a walk. I totally forgot about the prayer. So another example is, one day I was praying, and again, I don't remember why I was praying, if I was upset or just like I didn't feel connected, but I remember it was another one of those prayers where I didn't feel like it was working, and then just like the image of a $20 bill popped in my head, and I thought, yeah, what? I was probably praying for money, but I was like, yeah, whatever. You know, here's what I think it was. I think I was like my brother Gary used to always find money. He was like, in my opinion, the luckiest person. Like, just like, he was always finding like $200, $50, $75, $300. You know, like, yeah, he just found a massive amount of money one time also. So I was thinking, like, you know, how come I'm not lucky like that? Why don't I, you know, find money and stuff, you know, like my brother did? And again, I just whatever gave up on the prayer, and sure enough, about an hour later, I'm going for a walk at about 2 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't sleep. And right there, smack dab in the middle of the road, is a brand new, fresh, crisp $20 bill about a mile away. And I thought, oh, you got to be kidding me. And I kind of grabbed it. I looked up at God like, okay, I hear you. Part 2 of Awesome Prayer Power. Okay. All right. So there was another, so I started getting really, really comfortable with energy healing. It was, okay, so let me go back and then I'll come to this section. So I'm going to get, or this point in time. So when I first started doing energy healing, I was really quiet. Like, is this real? You know, blah, blah, blah. And so the first time I did energy healing, I just one day thought, you know, I'm going to do it on my girlfriend, because she said she had a headache this morning, and or something was wrong. I forget what it was exactly. And she was about 45 minutes away at her job in another city. And I just randomly started doing the techniques, and then eventually got to sending energy into her. And what ended up happening is, after about 30 minutes or so, I was wrapping up, and I get a phone call. I think, if I remember, it was 5 minutes after I did it, and she goes, hey, are you doing that energy healing stuff on me? I'm like, well, yeah, why? She goes, I can feel this really nice, cool energy, almost like water flowing through me, and my headache's gone, blah, blah, blah. I was like, holy shit, like, that was a huge convincer for me. Now remember, I didn't tell her I was going to do it. She didn't even ask me to do it, okay? And then I did it the next day just to see if this was real, okay? And again, I didn't tell her, and she called me 5 minutes before I finished the session. So at this point, I was really strong in faith, really strong in belief. I was like, okay, now I'm just moving along. Now, there's a reason I'm sharing these stories with you, okay? For some of you, it's really going to pay off. I'm actually doing something here, so just have a little faith. Okay, so at this point in time, years and years go by, and I'm just doing this, doing that. I'm just having fun with it, and like, okay, this is really cool. And I'm impressing the hell out of people. People are starting to look at me like, you know, what's going on with this guy? Like, how does he do this? So number one, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I was born gifted with this. Now, I don't believe I was just gifted. I think from what I've heard from Berkeley Psychic Institute, Buddha Calm, and also Uncle George Naopi, the big kahuna in Hawaii, they all said, like, you have been here many, many lifetimes, and you have been an energy healer or healer for all the lifetimes that you've came to this planet. Now, these were all at separate times. I mean, I'm talking a year apart, each of those meetings, like one with Uncle George Naopi during a training in Hawaii, another one at the Berkeley Psychic Institute, another one when I met Buddha Calm. I mean, these were like this wasn't like one meeting. These were years apart. And my girlfriend at the time, she was Laotian, and she just goes like, why does everyone keep saying you're this white healer? Like Buddha.com called me a white Buddha, not meaning a white person, but like the highest level, okay? It's like the highest level of clearing and healing, etc. And then the Berkeley Psychic Institute called me a white, I think it was a white healer. I don't, it was white something. But it didn't mean white person. It just meant like the highest level of clarity. So what these were doing for me was giving me belief, because I was raised, I was, again, like a lot of you, I was raised in this Christian church, this Christian way of being, this Western mind, and all of that stuff was either hooey-fooey, or it was the work of the devil, or it was something wrong with it, or you're not worthy, that kind of stuff. So at this point, now that I understand there's a lot of demonic narcissists involved in the churches, I very much see it like, oh, that person was a narcissist. And so it was very much, and here's the other, so one thing it did is it would crushed and made me aware of, oh, those people are the enemy. The other side was, well, wait a minute, why do we keep hearing in the Bible how some of us were given multiple gifts? Now, I'm one of those people. Now, Pastor Rex one day goes, Michael, you have many gifts, spiritual gifts. That's very biblical. It's in the Bible. Some people have one, some people have two, some people have few, some people have many gifts. And what this guy says here, when you get attacked, thank God. That means Christ is really very close with you. In another one, he says Christ dwells within you. If you're getting attacked, that means Christ is dwelling within you. And that's why you're getting attacked. So when you start understanding the game, and it is a mind game, you start to come out of it and you're like, oh, okay, now you start to step into your power. So at this point, I started to pray to God. I wanted to see if I could heal people of cancer. And I literally set an intention and I prayed about it. I had so much confidence. A few months later, somebody was referred to me. And I just went right through with it and said, well, worst case scenario, it doesn't work. And if it works, great, whatever. And I just had full confidence in my ability. And I just went through it using the techniques, et cetera, et cetera. And boom, within a matter of weeks, months, she was completely healed of cancer. Now, this lady had been seeing doctors for, I think it was over a year. I don't know if it was 2 years, but it was a long time. They wrote her off, said, hey, there's nothing else we can do. Say goodbye to your family, throw like a party, a goodbye party, etc. So here's the thing, though. When they got back to me and they told me that she was healed of cancer, I was like, wait, what? And it shocked me. They actually did a biopsy. And so she went back to her doctor, and it was like 2 months later, or maybe it was 6 weeks after the last session. And they did a biopsy and they did an x-ray. And it shrunk all the way down to a third the size of what it was already. And all the cells went dormant, meaning they were non-cancerous. Now, you might think I would have jumped up for joy and thought, oh, I've got it, and no, it actually terrified me, because it was such, God, what's the word I'm looking for? It was like, is this real? And let me tell you something, there was a battle that was going on in my mind. It was this battle of, wait a minute, this can't be real. I even thought, oh, they're lying to me. That's what I thought was happening. Oh, this is some kind of weird mind game that they're playing with me or something. So then there was someone on social media who was dying, and it was a young lady, very, very vibrant, very healthy, and all of a sudden she was dying and she was losing weight. And I didn't really at first pay attention, or whatever, and she kept posting pictures. And after about 6 months, or maybe it was longer, it might have been 8 or 9 months, I didn't really tune in right away, she was emaciated. She was skin and bone. She was crying, saying, my mom and dad have to carry me to the bathroom. I can't even walk, and I'm so ashamed because I'm supposed to take care of them in their old age, and they're taking care of me. And I just said, I can help you. Would you like for me to do energy healing on you? And so at this point, she was like, I'll do anything. So she had been seeing doctors at this point. I think it was a year. and the medicine that she was taking, like nothing was working, and it was the same thing. She was literally on the verge of death. So literally within a matter of 2 weeks, she started getting a little bit of color come back. You know, her eyes, the light came back a little bit, and she started getting more energy. Next thing you know, she could walk herself to the bathroom. So I kept doing sessions, and there was something that really weird happened within all 3 of the sessions. It was something I'd never been taught or saw. I was like, what is this? All right, I'm going to give it to you. So it was like a cave came up, and it was like a past lifetime of hers. And there was something to do with the energy back then that was affecting her in every lifetime, okay? And all I knew was there was this cave, and inside there was no air. It was mucky, and it was bad energy, and it was like the energy wasn't flowing through. So essentially all I had to do was build this hole, like a roof almost, at the very end of it. Not a roof, but like a hole. Kind of like a large open chimney almost, but not really a chimney, just a big hole. And I sent air through there and energy through there, and I did some other there's a little bit more to it, but the more I kept coming back, the more I kept cleaning this area, and then the space out front outside, she started to really begin to heal. She started gaining weight, her hair came back. I mean, everything got better and better. So at this point in time, I was convinced. I was like, that's it. I don't need no more convincers. I think that one of the biggest convincers for me is when people contact, like, dude, I feel this energy, or I fell asleep like a how do they say, like a, not a bag of rocks, but whatever, just like boom, I got knocked out and I slept for 12 hours. Like there's a video of Adam on here talking about the energy healing session I did with him. So here's my point in all of this. A lot of you guys on my channel, in some way, shape, or form, you are a healer. Maybe you're an emotional healer. Maybe you are a teacher who heals through teaching, through art, through music, through, I don't know. So this is going to be part 3 of getting your power back, prayer power, energy healing power. So number 1, you are a very, very powerful being. All you need to do is just open up. Now, when I was in Hawaii, or Uncle George Naopi walked up to me the very first day that he came into the training. He literally, as he was being introduced, he walked up past the front from right to left, walked all the way back. I was almost at the very back row. He walked right up to me, looked me right in the eye. He said, you are already a healer. He goes, all you have to do is open up. He goes, you can heal anybody of anything. I just thought he was being not only kind, but I thought he was just trying to build my confidence. There's a whole long story behind this, where my dad met Uncle George Naopi many, many years before that, when I was younger. And then after high school, I found my dad again, and he said, hey, you're going to meet this man, Uncle George Naopi. And I just kind of, yeah, whatever, Dad, like, why would I meet this kahuna? Like, what's a kahuna? And sure enough, I was at a training for NLP and hypnosis, and then they said, hey, we added Huna to the course now. I was like, what's Huna? Well, Huna was energy healing. And about a week later, in walked Uncle George Naopi, and I didn't make the connection when he was talking to me until I went back and I was talking to my dad. And my dad goes, yeah, that's the guy I was telling you about. I was like, oh, that's the guy. These are not coincidences. These experiences that you're having, these people that you're meeting, that book that you just started reading when you didn't even know why, these are all meant to be. So here's the deal. I've been teaching you a lot of techniques over the last couple years of breathing techniques, grounding techniques, how to open up techniques, etc., because here's the deal. Everyone from Buddha Calm to Uncle George, the Big Kahuna, etc., even the Berkeley Psych Institute, after they did a reading on me, they're like, all you have to do is open back up and you can heal people. Well, here's the deal. This is why I'm teaching you grounding techniques, because grounding techniques help you to open up. Grounding techniques plug you in. When people say you got to tune in, you have to plug in. So when we're learning like pranic healing or whatever, they take you through a phase In the beginning, they teach you grounding techniques, they teach you awareness techniques, they teach you consciousness techniques, they teach you breathing techniques. And while you're doing the healing, there's actually a breathing technique that I do while I'm doing the healing. A big part of what I'm doing with you guys on these videos is opening you up. I'm getting you to shift from one perspective to another, to another, to another, because what we're doing is we're reconnecting you to your brain, to all of your brain, to your neurology, and to the energy around you. So what are we doing neurologically? What are we doing physically? We're getting you to open up to your physical flesh body, which technically on a scientific level, we're getting you to open up to your right brain, because the right brain is the spiritual brain. It's the emotional, creative, spiritual brain. Healing is done on an emotional level. That is your fuel. Your emotions are your fuel to that Ferrari. I don't care how good of a left brain you have. If you don't have emotions, you don't have fuel. If you don't have fuel, you don't have energy. If you don't have energy, you are not going to go. And most of you are very right brain people. You're very tuned in. You're very emotional. You're very, I don't know how grounded you are, but I'd say compared to the average person, you're probably more grounded more often than the average person. My point, my purpose, your emotions are your power. The reason why the enemy attacks your emotions, oh, you're one of those emotional people. Oh, you're just emotional. Your emotions are your spirit. Your emotions connect you to your power, your physical power, your emotional power, and yes, your energetic spiritual power, for sure. So one of the main things the enemy is going to do, they're going to convince you that somehow this is wrong, you're bad, that, oh, you know, you've got power, like even tell you it's unfair. And yes, this does transfer over into sports, school, business, everything. So a lot of people, when they start realizing, well, this isn't fair, you know, you're talented in many areas, or you have this ability and that's not fair. Well, that's just a narcissistic demon. Like literally, they are demons telling you not to use your own skill set, your own power. So in sports, I would literally play down to my opponent's level. My coach would scream at me, especially in wrestling, because it was really apparent. I'd be wrestling against a guy who shouldn't even been up against me, wasn't even in my league, and I would wrestle down to his level and I'd barely beat him, and my teammates like, what's your problem? Why don't you just go out there and pin him? Why don't you just like destroy him? And I'm like, but the thing is, I would struggle because it was like a mental battle. And that's what all these narcissists have done to you. They've convinced you that your abilities, skills, and power is wrong. Because they're right. You do have an advantage. You are an advanced being, and you've earned it through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. You have been through a nightmare. You have been through a lot of pain and a lot of suffering and a lot of really hard lessons. And they haven't. And they just think, well, I should have that power too. Like, imagine going to wrestling practice every day, 6 months every year for 4 or 5 years, and someone just shows up and like, well, it's not fair, you're better than me. Well, yeah, I am better because I worked my ass off for 4 freaking years or longer. I dedicated myself. I disciplined myself. I earned it. I learned how. I developed it, you know. Not to mention the many, many lifetimes that you have developed. You might be a great artist or a great singer or something. And when you were born, people are like, well, that's really weird. She just started singing one day. It's like, yeah, because you brought those into this lifetime. Because you've earned it from your past lifetimes. You put the work in those lifetimes. Now, here's another real weird caveat of all this energy healing. There will be times when you heal someone, and on the one hand, they're like, wow, thank you. But on the other hand, they kind of get afraid. They're like, wait, what's going on here? Because it's not normal for these people. Like, whereas me, I've been doing it for so long, I just walk around, talk about like it's no big deal. And every now and someone will look at me like, what? You're weird, dude. Or they're like, what the hell? And it's funny, but like you're thinking like, but wait a minute, someone called you, contacted you, asked you to heal them. And when you do, they get scared. Like, yeah, Because we are raised in a Western society where it's all about pills and shots and surgery and cutting things out. So on the one hand, they were desperate, and yet when it actually worked, they just like, wait, what? Like, because their reality was in this box. When you destroy that box and you blow out all the walls and blow off the ceiling, and all of a sudden they have this much more greater expanded awareness of more possibilities. They're like, it's overwhelming. So it can cause them to want to put the walls back up and put the ceiling back on to kind of go back to that smaller existence, that smaller circle of awareness. Sorry, I got cut off. So that smaller circle of awareness, because they felt safe there, because this is what they knew. Anytime you expand even a little bit, it's kind of scary because this is new territory, even though it makes you a lot safer and gives you more abilities. So, alright, so here's one thing I wanted to say. So my ex is Laotian, so that's right next to Thailand and Vietnam. So she's half Thai, half Lao. And when I did this energy healing stuff on her, it didn't really like freak her out or anything. It was, and she goes, no, well, it's normal in my country. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, well, we're Buddhist and we do that stuff all the time. Buddhist monks do it all the time. So in her village, she had a village monk, Buddha Calm, who ended up moving here years later after they moved here. To my fortune, because when I first woke up, I didn't understand what I was going through. Now, it was a really good experience, but it was like, well, what is this? I went to all these different like Japanese temples and, all kinds of, Sikh temples, etc. in Sacramento. And no one could explain to me. In Buddha Calm, the minute I walked in, boom, he said, you're waking up. So there's a little bit more into that, but it was a really like good thing for me. Now, my ex is also a narcissist for sure. It was a horrible relationship. But two reasons. Number one, because she was from Laos and that was part of their culture. She didn't make a big deal out of it. And number two, she actually downplayed it like it was nothing. Like to me, I was just like, holy shit, like what is this? I was blown away. And I realize now as I look back, like, yeah, of course she was just acting like, oh, that's nothing. And because part of me was like, why doesn't she think this is a big deal? I was like, my mind was just blown. But the thing about it is I think on accident, because she did that, it helped me to not get overwhelmed and get afraid of it. So the final piece is this. Yes, people will be afraid of your power. Even if you're not an energy healer, even if you're very conscious, you're very aware, you're very tuned in, people will be intimidated. And it's what's the word I'm looking for? When your energy expands, okay, even if you don't do any energy healing, even if you don't believe it, because there were some people that were just, in the box people, but they've, you grow, you develop over time, and you, like someone like Tony Robbins or a really spiritual pastor or minister, and they're 45, 50 years old, their like energy will expand. And you kind of become I remember when I was younger, I'd be really intimidated by people like this, and I didn't know why. They were super nice, they were wonderful people, but there's just something about the energy that's different than yours. It's more powerful, and you can feel it. And guess what? So can they. They meaning your friends and family and the people around you. The more you grow spiritually, the more you expand, people are going to be kind of intimidated by it, especially at first. So here I was healing people, or healing someone in particular, and this group of people turned on me. It was like they thought, well, this is just bad and this is evil, it's wrong. It's like, well, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm healing people of physical injuries, of cancer, of emotional issues, etc., etc., and it was working, and they were just like, wait, this is So what I realized is people have their own limited mindset. It's especially if they're two-dimensional left-brain people, it will really freak them out because this is completely outside of their box. So then they're going to jump to, oh, let's demonize this person. Like I'm trying to think of someone who's really, really smart and figured stuff out, and they ended up getting demonized. I don't know if it was Nicholas Tesla, if he was one of those people. Let me think of who that was. Hold on. But people like Elon Musk, they end up getting, people will just like make shit up and demonize them. Like, wait, what? All this person's doing is positive things for the world, so what's your problem? Now let me tell you something about becoming an energy healer specifically. You have to go through clearing after clearing after clearing, and it will bring up your issues full force. And when shame comes up, you feel it to the fullest. When guilt comes up, you feel it to the fullest. And it is not easy. It's not like an hour trip. It lasts for weeks, even months. So to become a really good energy healer, you have to clear and clear and clear and clear. This is part of the shaman walk, if you will. Like, you have to go through these clearings and these healings, which means you have to face all of your issues and take on the brunt fullness of the negative emotions, the fear, the shame, the guilt, the confusion, all of this stuff. You have to go through the fire. So the thing is, people that don't see you go through 30, like I've been going through energy healing for over 30 years. They don't see the absolute nightmare that you have to deal with, the way the people treat you, clearing your own emotional issues and on and on. They don't see that. They're just like, well, how come this person has these abilities? Like, I don't understand. It was like they were just born this way. It was just they got lucky. Like, there's no luck involved in this at all. I'm specifically talking about a narcissist that was in my life. They're just, like, they got all jealous and they got all butthurt. And they just thought, well, why isn't it gifted to me? It's like, well, it's not a gift. You have to go through the fire to earn this, to develop it, to clear it and learn about it. It is not easy. So here's the deal. Like, you have got to convince God beyond, and it's not even up to you. God will put you through the test. You will go through the test. And it's not one test or two or 10 or 20 or 100 or 200. It is lifetimes. It is, at the very least, it's decades. And I mean 30 plus years. Actually, it started at birth. It really did. A lot of you were abused at a very, very young age, believe it or not, but this is all part of going through the fire. And a lot of you have been going through the fire, not even realizing what this is all about. You are about to receive your spiritual gifts. Hey, this is Mike Colleen at MikeColleen.com. If you like this video, go ahead and click subscribe, click the like button, make a comment, and if you want, go ahead and make a donation for Christmas. I would appreciate it. There's a PayPal link right down there in the description box. God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Merry Christmas, everyone.